Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Cristina Dominguez and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is officially my first video and I'm very excited to be able to share with you my thoughts, my insights, my support, and anything else that you guys might need. So for today, I wanted to discuss a little bit more and go into detail regarding the current events of the present time. We are in some rough times and it might bring up something different for everybody. But one thing that I do know is when we're in silence, a lot tends to come up. We are constantly in a state of noise, whether it's with TV in the background, doing this. There's so much that can keep us busy. Even if you're in a small town, I'm in a bigger one that has a lot of noise, but there are always ways in which we can find and surround ourselves with noise if we want to kind of sound something out, put it to the background. What I'm finding is that we almost don't have a choice right now. We are locked in. A lot of the things that tend to keep us busy are no longer there. So we're having to face a lot of what we've been trying to avoid for some time. It's making anxiety bubble up. It's making some depression bubble up. And what might this look like? When you're in a state of silence, a lot of the things that we set to the back burner as far as our beliefs, our self-expectations, might come up in ways that we might not expect and that we might not like. So how many of you guys have been feeling irritable lately? I know I have. And particularly because I'm being faced with the very things that I haven't wanted to look at myself for, looking in the mirror. How many of you have somebody at home right now that's reflecting those very things and making it that much more difficult because it's staring at you right in the face? I want us to take this opportunity to look at our relationship with us. Do you love you? What is love, actually? Let's even start there. Way before we even consider if we love ourselves. What is love? How do you define it? Does love sound loving? Or is it critical? Really think about it. Because it's so easy to be able to say, of course I love myself. Of course I'm lovable. Of course I believe that I deserve better. But do we really? And these are the moments where we start to recognize the truth behind that. It's not an easy truth to have to face. It's not an easy one to swallow. But we can make best use of it. Again, we're going through very challenging times, everybody in their own way. And it's important to validate that. So be mindful of falling into the trap of, oh, but I have it so good. Other people have it so bad. Look at the healthcare providers stuck in the hospitals all day. Yes, they have it bad. But when we do that, we take away from validating our own experience. Your pain is just as valuable as somebody else's. And by comparing yours to someone else, you might be diminishing it. So let's try to be mindful of that. And go back to the drawing board. What is love? How do I really define love? And realizing that your first and most important loving relationship is that with yourself. All the other ones are just a reflection of the one that you have with you. That sounds really cliche. I've heard that everywhere. Everybody says that. We all know what is love, and songs are written about it, movies are dedicated to it. But now is the time. Now we have the time. We have slowed down to a halt. And we have the time to truly recognize how not only we define it, but most importantly, see how we live by it. That's how you're really going to be able to recognize by seeing, like practicing what we preach in a way. So what happens is that we tend to focus so much on the symptom once it's already too late. Feeling the anxiety, feeling the depression. So how many of you guys right now are feeling irritable, feeling uncomfortable, feeling restless? When one is feeling bored, it means that there's a lack of stimulation. So does this imply that we always have to be stimulated? What about when we're in silence? Does it mean that silence is not stimulating enough? Or does it mean that it's uncomfortable to sit in it because there's nothing for you to do? The reason why I'm bringing this up is because it's important to recognize how we tend to define ourselves based on our achievements. So now is the time to really see how we feel when there ain't shit to do. Literally. Some of us might have families at home. Some of us might have more responsibilities. For those of us that have the essential jobs that you have to keep going, all right, there's still a lot of stress that comes along with it. So for those of us that are cooped up at home and really starting to reflect on our life and taking it to that place that we've never gone to before and we don't like to go to, how do you define yourself? Start there. Before anything, before even the love question. How do you define you? Now, if you define yourself based off of your job, and right now you don't have one, then you're in for a few months of difficulty. At the same time, if we make best use of this and start to define ourselves based off of just us, and what might this look like? That's exactly the beauty of this time. How can I define me with something other than my achievements? Defining yourself based on your achievements is going to become dangerous because when you don't have it, like now, you start to feel it some type of way about it. We start to become so dependent on those roles, on those hats that we're taking on and off all day, every day. So who are you today? Are you the person that cooks the meal for their family? And even that is still somewhat of an achievement. It's a hard question. When you start to peel back those layers, it really is a hard question because this is not a commonly advocated conversation to have because it's an uncomfortable one. So who are you? What makes you you? Really, truly, in the form of the word, when you take off the labels. Now, what is love? What is love without those labels? When you are not achieving anything, do you still feel valuable? Do you still feel worthy of love? Unfortunately, it's very common for us to feel as though we need to achieve something to feel worthy and lovable. Again, dangerous territory, because it means we constantly have to be up and doing things. That's not always feasible in a very extreme situation such as this one. But what about in the situations where we can no longer achieve things, whether it's circumstantial or doesn't matter? When we're no longer able to do those things, what happens to you? Very classic case, at least in my area, in my field, is the athlete when they become injured or they retire. Their entire lives, their entire identity was that football player, that volleyball player. And now who are you? Exactly. So let's start to reflect and see how we can start to define ourselves in ways that are so much more than just the things that we do. Because the way that then correlates to our relationships is that we need to be doing in our relationships. And if we're not doing enough, then we don't feel enough. And we start to feel as though we're not lovable. And then the snowball goes downhill from there. So let's take this time to reflect. It's a difficult time. Be easy on yourself. Make sure to incorporate self-care practice. And maybe this in itself is a time to start even evaluating what that might be for you. How many of you guys have actually considered that? This is more than just a bubble bath once a month. This is really loving yourself. What does your self-talk sound like? Start to pay attention to it. This silence is providing us with the opportunity to reflect on what's going on in here all the time that might be drowned out by the noise of every day. So give it some thought. At the same time, make sure you're not too deep in your thought. So watch movies, read books, go out for a walk, of course, with safe distancing, practicing the social distancing and whatnot. But this is a time. It is an opportunity that we are being presented with that is very rare. We might not ever, and hopefully not in the near future, be presented with a situation like this, but we're here. So let's make best use of it. Reflect. You're welcome to share your thoughts with me, whether you want to post a comment. You're welcome to email me at cdominguezpsyd@gmail.com. You can also give me a call if you'd like. Leave me a message. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you're thinking, and most importantly, make sure to love yourself, take care of yourself, be patient, and that's it. Just be, breathe, and be. Take care. Until next time.